Hello everyone and welcome to UNSW's Year 10 information session where we will talk subject selection. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal, Gadigal and Ngunnawal people who are the traditional custodians of the land in which UNSW campuses reside on. I would also like to pay my respect to elders both past, present and emerging and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are joining us this evening. My name is Jess Hazelman and I am the Faculty Recruitment Team Lead here in the Future Students team. We have the pleasure of providing you all of the information you will need to make an informed decision about your university choices. Now, what to expect from this Year 10 information session? Well, we will help you navigate the HSC subject selection process, explain how UNSW admissions and scholarship applications work, and give you an insight into the transitioning into university life so you can get a head start on your planning. We will conclude the session with a Q&A from some of our current students, so please drop your questions into the chat throughout the presentation so we can answer them at the end, or my colleagues in the wings will write responses directly into the chat. Now a bit about us. UNSW was founded in 1949 as a technical institution to focus on science and engineering after the war, due to a shortage in the Australian workforce. Since then, we've come a long way and have over 70,000 students taking more than 300 degrees and degree combinations. It's safe to say we've made some progress. In 2025, we are a top 20 global university and have ranked first in Australia for career outcomes. We also have the highest number of graduates in the AFR Top 100 Most Employable Graduates for the last 6 years running, and produce the most CEOs out of any university in Australia. We are making global connections too, with over 300 exchange partners in more than 35 countries. We'd love for you to join us and keep making progress for all. Speaking of university, we want to introduce you to a couple of key acronyms that will help you not only in tonight's information session, but also through your transition to university. Now, the first acronym is UAC. This stands for the University Admissions Centre, who we'll hear from tonight. The second is ATAR, Australian Tertiary Admissions Rank. And last but definitely not least is the LSR, which is our lowest selection rank. UNSW refers to the LSR often, as this is an important part of our admission process into UNSW. LSR is your ATAR plus any additional adjustment factors you may have. Now, without further ado, we will start with our special guest, Trudy Noller from UAC, University Admissions Centre, who will talk through further details about ATAR and subject selection. Thank you, Trudy.
Hello, my name's Trudy Noller. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at UAC. Tonight we're going to be talking about the ATAR and subject selection for Years 11 and 12. For those of you who don't know who UAC is an organisation that looks after applications for over 30 different institutions across New South Wales and the ACT. We also administer applications for our access schemes, the Schools Recommendation Scheme or SRS, which is an early entry scheme, Educational Access Scheme or EAS, which is about special consideration for students who've experienced some difficulties through Years 11 and 12, and Equity Scholarships, which is about finance and financial hardship. Now, of course, I'm not going to speak about those tonight because they are more to do with Year 12 students. But one thing I will be talking about tonight is the one thing that we are most known for, and that is that we calculate the ATAR for all New South Wales HSC students. So with that, let's talk about the ATAR. So before we talk about calculation, let's talk about the HSC marks versus ATAR. At the end of Year 12, students will receive notification from NESA, or the New South Wales Education Standards Authority, telling them or advising them what courses they have completed in the HSC mark that they have achieved for each course, and the performance band that that mark will align to. Your HSC marks that you have achieved, of course, tell us about how well you've performed in each course, whereas UAC will report the ATAR. Now, UAC works very closely with NESA. They provide us with your moderated assessment marks and your raw exam marks. We will then use those marks to calculate the ATAR. And that one number, of course, is really telling us about where you are positioned amongst all other students in the state. So it's performance versus position. We talk about it like being in a running race. And that is that you, of course, may have done your personal best performance in the race. But when you look around, you think, well, I've done my best performance, but I'm actually positioned in the middle of the pack. So my performance in the race may look very different to your position in the race, like your HSC marks may look very different to your ATAR. These are numbers that mean totally different things. And in actual fact, at the end of the day, the only thing a student can control in this whole scenario of HSC marks and ATAR is how well you're going to perform. You cannot control your ATAR or your position because you cannot control the competition. So, performance versus position. Remember, the only thing that you can control is your performance. So, of course, when it comes to the rules and regulations around HSC and ATAR, in Year 10, you're going to be completing or going to be choosing 12 units of study. So that in Year 11, you will complete those 12 units of study to satisfy HSC eligibility. In Year 12, you, of course, can keep your 12 units of study. However, UAC will need 10 units of board-developed courses with 2 units of English, 3 courses of 2 units or greater, and 4 subject areas so that you can be eligible for an ATAR. So what is the ATAR? The Australian Tertiary Admissions Rank, of course, is just that. It is a rank. It is not a mark or a score. It will not define you as a student for the rest of your academic career. It's just the one thing that, or one tool that universities use to select students to get into their courses. It is about your overall position, and it is a number between 0 and 99.95. Taking into consideration that not everybody can come first, and we only see around about 48 to 50 students receiving the top ATAR every year. So how do we calculate the ATAR? Of course, as I said before, we need 10 units of study to calculate your ATAR, and that's 10 units of board-developed courses, which must include 2 units of English. When we do the calculation, we are using scaled marks, not HSC marks that are reported to you from NESA. So when we talk about scaling, which is a big topic among students, because students in Year 10 think they should be picking courses because of scaling, which is, of course, is absolutely untrue. Scaling, of course, is just the first step in the calculation of the ATAR. And why do we do it? We do it to create a more even playing field so that no student is either advantaged or disadvantaged because of their course choice. You might be thinking, well, what do you mean by creating a more even playing field? We need to, of course, create that even playing field because many students have different patterns of study. Now, last year we had roughly around 75,000 different HSC students completing around about 25,000 different patterns of study. So doing the scaling process takes away the difference between patterns of study. So once again, it's about making everything as fair as possible so that all students have the opportunity to receive the highest ATAR they possibly can. When it comes to scaling, of course, many students feel that we are scaling the course, but we're not scaling courses. We're actually scaling the academic ability of students within the course. So some courses have higher scaled means than others. Now, a higher scale mean just tells us that the academic ability of the students within the course in general is quite high. Other courses with lower scale means just tells us that the academic ability of students within that course varies from high to low. It does not mean that you cannot achieve a high ATAR that includes a course with a low scale mean, because you absolutely can. You just have to be very good at the course that you're completing. So course is irrelevant. Students should be picking courses that they really love, that they have an ability for, and of course, a course that may set them up for success if they're going on to university. So let me tell you about the story of Fred and Laura, two students who completed the same courses last year in the HSC. You can see here that Fred gets marks of 70 for everything and Laura marks of 80. You can also see that their ATARs are very different, with Fred receiving an ATAR of 57.6 and Laura an ATAR of 78.3. Now, I can guarantee on ATAR day, Fred is going to contact me and say, "Miss, I think there's something wrong. 57.6 is not an average of 70. I can't quite figure out how my ATAR was calculated." What Fred is actually trying to do is compare his HSC marks, his performance, with his ATAR, his position. And as explained earlier, these are numbers that mean totally different things. You cannot compare them. In actual fact, the story of the ATAR is not in the HSC marks, but in that percentile column, because this tells us where each student was positioned in all of their courses. So for instance, last year, in biology, a mark of 70 placed Fred in the 32nd percentile, meaning that 68% of students had marks better than him. On the other hand, Laura, a mark of 80, placed her in the 68th percentile, meaning that she only had 22% of students ahead of her. Remember, the ATAR is about position. If we have a look at English Advanced last year, a mark of 70 placed Fred in the 4th percentile, meaning that 96% of students had marks better than him, and Laura, a mark of 80, still positioned her in that course in the lower half of the cohort. If we just look at the percentile column for Fred, you can see that he is positioned in the lower half of the cohort for all of his courses. Therefore, his ATAR will reflect that. Even if we just align Fred's HSC marks against the median HSC marks, you can see his marks lay beneath the middle. Once again, telling us that his ATAR will certainly lay beneath the middle, and last year the median ATAR was 71.55. So that's the ATAR, but let's talk a little bit about subject selection for Year 10 students. Very soon, all Year 10 students will receive a booklet through their school called Steps to Uni for Year 10 students, which will help them make some really great decisions. So when it comes to subject selection, students, of course, will need to work with their school because they can't offer every single course, as you could well imagine, at their school. Students should talk to their teachers because they know them academically. But they should also think about what courses interest them. Are they ATAR courses, meaning are they board-developed courses, which UAC needs to calculate an ATAR? Are they a good foundation for success if they're going on to university, meaning does the course they want to study at university have anything at school that I can get some background knowledge in? And will the courses that they complete or that they are going to take up satisfy any uni course prerequisites? So in the Year 10 booklet you're going to receive through your school, it will list every single institution with their study areas. In that area of the booklet, it will also tell you where there is a prerequisite for entry, assumed knowledge, or recommended studies. Now, a prerequisite is an HSC course that a student must complete to even be considered for the course that they're wanting to apply for. Assumed knowledge is a HSC course that a student should take on or at least consider taking on for Years 11 and 12, as this course will make them more successful when they get to university. Meaning that if they're wanting to do, of course, engineering, then they should be taking on some maths in Year 11 and 12 because that will prepare them for what is next. Now, recommended studies, although it would be a nice to have HSC course, it's not a necessity. So really, I would suggest that students really look at the prerequisite courses and assume knowledge, as these are going to set them up for success if they're going on to university. So when making decisions, I would suggest students please be prepared to put in the hard work. Research future careers and studies. Consider your interests and abilities. Research university entry requirements, and remember, those who research their options and work hard usually achieve their goals. So what next? In Year 10, of course, you will need to choose your 12 units of study to carry through in Years 11 and 12. Remember to take on courses that you love, that you really have the ability for, and that will set you up for success. In Year 11, of course, you will need to complete those 12 units of study so that you satisfy HSC eligibility. Then when it comes to Year 12, make sure or confirm that you are still ATAR eligible, especially if you're thinking about dropping subjects. And then in Year 12, in around about April, the applications for universities will certainly open, and UAC will contact you in April to give you all the instructions on what to do next with that application. So remember, this is your future. Remember that the ATAR, of course, is a rank, not a mark or a score. It will not define you as a student for the rest of your academic career. It's just one tool that the universities will use to make selection of their students into their courses. Choose courses, or HSC courses, of course, that you like and are good at. Choose courses that will set you up for success, and of course, explore all your options. Thank you for having me here this evening. I hope that you have a successful Year 11 and 12 year. We wish you all the best with your decision-making process. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact UAC.
Thanks, Trudy. Earlier this week, we heard from 2 UNSW students, and they're here to tell us about their journey to university. Over to you.
Hi, my name's Jason, and I'm currently studying electrical engineering in my 4th year.
Hi, my name is Gaia, and I'm in 3rd year medical science.
And we're here to take you through our journey from Year 10 into university.
So let's take it back. Where did it all begin?
So for me, it started in Year 10, and I started thinking about my subject selection. So Gaia, did you think about the subjects you were about to choose in Year 10?
I certainly did. I knew I wanted to do STEM, so I was very certain that I should be taking science and maths. I was a little bit skeptical about doing science because I'm not very good at science, but I went with my passions, and I'm doing science now, so no regrets. What about you, Jason?
It's very similar for me as well. So I always thought about doing engineering, but I didn't know what engineering I wanted it to do. So I dabbled my skills in engineering studies while also taking a lot of history, which was my main passion at the time.
So essentially when I was picking my subjects, I was trying to set myself up for uni and my future career. What about you, Jason?
So I instead chose to pursue my passion and did a lot of history subjects. However, I didn't do physics, and I was very worried of my future as an engineering student.
Don't fear, UNSW does not have any prerequisites. We only have assumed knowledge, which basically means the lecturers expect you to have a baseline knowledge, and it's really just there to make your life easier. So if you're trying to do engineering, it might be a good idea to have done some maths.
So for my example, I did not do physics, but I took a physics bridging course before I started my degree. And that helped me gain my understanding before I started university to put me on a level playing ground with everyone else.
UNSW offers bridging courses in maths, physics, and chemistry.
So what if I'm not sure of what subjects I want to do and what I want to study in university?
Come along to our experience days to gain a little bit more insight into what aligns with your interests.
Now, we're in Year 11. We've chosen our subjects. Gaia, do you have any tips for our Year 11 students?
Yeah, I'd say group study is really beneficial. Also utilize your teachers, they're there to help. And don't be afraid to ask questions. How about you, Jason? What did you do to navigate Year 11?
In Year 11, I chose to do a lot of extracurricular activities to give my brain a break away from books. With that, I did basketball and also Air Force Cadets, which allowed me to gain a lot of skill in Year 11 when I did my HSC in Year 12.
Extracurriculars are also a great way to expand your horizon. UNSW offers the Elite Athletes, Leaders and Performers Scheme, which are adjustment factors that are basically extra ATAR points that can make it easier for you to get into your dream degree.
It's also a good idea to go ahead and look at our UNSW websites for our scholarship and accommodation options. You're finally there. You're now in Year 12. You probably think about all the opportunities and courses in university and what's life after high school. So Gaia, how'd you navigate Year 12?
Personally, I knew what I wanted to do, but I did find the UNSW guide very helpful. It's also a good idea to have a look at the UNSW Course Finder page for more information on what you might be studying in certain courses, as well as future career paths if you're interested. Where are you, Jason?
So I came through the Gateway Admission pathway in my transition into university. I would also highly recommend to take a look or research all our adjustment factor points available. So for example, HSC Plus is to award bonus adjustment factor points for high achieving students. EAPL, our Elite Athletes Performance Scheme, as previously mentioned, is for our curricular activities and our sporting achievement students as well, and also our EAS for any disadvantages experienced during high school.
If you don't get into your dream degree, don't worry. UNSW also offers the internal program transfer, where you can apply to transfer from one degree to another.
Still curious about UNSW and want to experience a day in the life of a university student?
Consider coming to our open day on the first Saturday of September, where you can attend lectures, speak one-on-one with academics, and get a ton of freebies. What was your favourite part about open day, Jason?
My favourite part was definitely the Miss Senna gelato store, when I came home and went home with a belly full of gelato and free food. Gaia, what's your advice for Year 12 students?
First of all, I'd say don't stress. UNSW has a ton of admission pathways which you can take advantage of, and it's a really great idea to start researching them now. What about you, Jason?
I would highly recommend to ask all the questions you can as well to gain a direct and clear path in your pathway after high school. I'd also recommend to lean onto your fellow friends and ask all the questions for your career advisors so they can give you guidance.
So, now you're in uni. You're probably wondering what to expect. Jason, what's your favourite part about uni life?
My favourite part about uni life is the vibrant social life that we do have on campus and also the flexibility. I used to thought that in Year 12, that university was 9 to 5 from period 0 to 6. I found out it was not the case, and now I can choose to do afternoon classes in 3 o'clock and have a little sleep in because I study better in the afternoon. So Gaia, what about you?
Personally, I love all the clubs and societies on campus. I was part of the Musical Theatre Society, and I actually became president of it last year. I thought it was a really good opportunity for me to get out of my comfort zone and try something new. What about you, Jason?
So during high school, I enjoyed playing pool a lot with my friends. I found out that through university, there was a society called QSOC, and now I go to the events weekly, joining social pool events and also our competition events as well.
That sounds great. UNSW actually has over 300 societies, from Tea and Coffee Society to Quidditch Society, so there's plenty of opportunities to get involved and try something new.
So other than career prospects, what's the most important thing that you've learned about university?
Personally, I found independence to be a really valuable tool at university because it's just not as personalised as high school. So it's on you to find the resources and reach out when you need help. What about you, Jason? What did you think?
The most important part I've learned about university was how to make meaningful connections with professional industry and also lifelong friends that you keep and maintain throughout your whole life. Thanks for watching. We hope our journey from Year 10 to university has inspired you to start your own journey.
We hope you enjoy the rest of the Year 10 information evening, and we hope to see you on campus soon.
Now I'm going to talk about the HSC subject selection and UNSW specifically. You'll be pleased to hear UNSW does not have prerequisites. We have assumed knowledge. Essentially, assumed knowledge means UNSW will commence teaching you assuming you have studied that certain subject in high school. So for example, advanced mathematics is assumed knowledge for the Bachelor of Commerce. If you commence in this particular degree and have started your mathematics course at UNSW, it'll be assumed that you have studied this area in your HSC or have that level of understanding to commence this mathematics course. If you haven't studied this subject in year 11 and 12, it's not going to prevent you from entering into this degree. Perhaps you fit the ideal scenario and are interested in the assumed knowledge subjects outlined in the UNSW Degree Finder, and therefore choose them in Year 11 and 12. You will have covered that knowledge of assumed knowledge. Of course, we understand things don't always go according to plan. You may choose subjects now that don't match your final degree choice, and that's okay. Decisions change along the way, and UNSW understands. On that note, UNSW does provide support for those wishing to equip themselves with this level of assumed knowledge. Students can take bridging courses in mathematics, physics, and chemistry that build their knowledge up. Alongside the bridging courses, UNSW also has other great support services available, such as peer mentors or tutoring services that can help you raise your standard of assumed knowledge. And there are other courses that students can take alongside their first term of studies. So, reiterating what Trudy from UAC said earlier about the HSC course structure. As we know, all courses have a unit or value for the HSC. It is similar to university as well. You'll get used to that concept now, and that will also help you throughout your university journey as well. Most courses in the HSC are 2 units, which equates to 120 hours of studying for the HSC result of 100. For example, the subject Advanced Maths is a 2-unit course, and you're expected to study 120 hours. Then we have other courses which are 1 unit, and that would be equivalent to 60 hours of study and an HSC result of 50. So, as an example, a 1-unit course is Extension English or Extension Maths. To recap, in Year 11, you are to take a minimum of 12 units, and in Year 12, you must do a minimum of 10 units, which means you could take on more courses in Year 11 and then decide if you want to continue that study low or free up more time to focus on your key courses in Year 12. For the HSC requirements, both Year 11 and 12 patterns of study must include at least 6 units of board-developed courses and at least 4 different kinds of subjects, which include English. Let me give you an example. A student may select 2-unit Advanced English. Then they may stack that with an English Extension 1, which is 1 unit. And then English Extension 2, which is another 1 unit. So this student now has a total of 4 units within English that apply to the 10 units of courses. And this student must now explore what other 3 subjects will give them their final 6 units to equate to the total 10 units needed for their HSC. For the HSC requirements, both Years 11 and 12 patterns of study must include at least 6 units of board-developed courses and at least 4 different kinds of subjects, including English. Let me give you an example. A student may select the 2-unit Advanced English course. Then they stack it with English Extension 1, which is 1 unit. And then English Extension 2, which is another 1 unit. This student now has a total of 4 units within English that apply to the 10-unit courses. This student must now explore what 3 different subjects, which are 2 units each, to study. This will tally the total of 10 units for the HSC. Now, it's good to note for those who are passionate about science that you can only take a maximum of 6 units of science in Year 11 and a maximum of 7 in Year 12 pattern of study. Also good to be aware that some courses have prerequisites to them, and you can find out more on the NESA website, which is listed below. What are the different types of HSC courses, you may ask? Well, there are 2 main types of courses you should know about. The first is a board-developed course, which is formulated which is a formulated standard curriculum developed by the NESA. If you select a board-developed course, you will find the course content is uniform through each high school, meaning you will do the same work and sit the same HXC examination as your friend who may be attending a different school, but studied the same board-developed course. Secondly, board-endorsed courses are slightly different. They do not have a HSC examination. They focus on school-based assessment. NESA has endorsed the course, but they haven't necessarily created a curriculum across the whole state that is uniform from school to school. So how do HSC marks work? The HSC mark is a combination of an internal assessment and external examination. Internal assessments are all of those assessments you completed in Year 12 with your high school. Each assessment is reported and sent to NESA, who will apply these marks to your final external examination result. External examinations are the final exam you will sit as part of your HSC, that are the same across all New South Wales schools. Once both results are combined, your HSC reported mark gets sent over to UAC and they then calculate your ATAR. Now let's explore the satisfactory completion of a course. Students must follow the course developed or endorsed by NESA. Apply themselves with diligence and sustained effort to the set tasks and experience provided in the school course. Achieve some or all of the course outcomes. VET board developed courses require students to complete mandatory work placement. So please be mindful if you do select them and ensure you know what the minimum requirements are for the specific course. Now, students need to demonstrate the minimum standard literacy and numeracy to be able to be eligible for a high school certificate. You will be passing online tests of basic literacy and numeracy skills throughout years 10, 11 and 12. These tests are broken into 3 different areas: reading, numeracy and writing. If you're wanting further details, please refer to the NESA website for more information. But UNSW Future Students team also have a plethora of resources available for parents, students and schools. Now, technology. With it constantly evolving, AI at the forefront, it's crucial for the work to remain authentic and acknowledge those information sources you've learnt on. HSC All My Own Work is a mandatory program designed to help HSC students follow the principles and practices of good scholarship. It consists of 4 topics. What is my own work? What is plagiarism? How do I acknowledge other people's work? And how can I work honestly? These are key skills to embed now into your studies, as you will need these throughout your university studies as well. To wrap up, our final pieces of advice to Year 10 students when considering course selection. Reflect on your own abilities. This will be your strength. Dive into your interests and motivations. It's a more empowering journey to select a course that motivates and interests you. Studying for this course will come naturally. Think about the future. What are your career aspirations and needs? Does this course match with that vision? It's important to review the syllabus requirements for each course. Are you ready to do a major or practical work component? Perhaps you want more balance. Look at your subject combinations and see how they will speak to each other. And finally, take into consideration all of your other commitments. How many hours do you do outside of school to dedicate time towards your courses? It's important to take this opportunity to reflect and plan for yourself, to map out how you envision the high school certificate and ensure you prepare yourself for the best possible outcome. You will thank yourself later. We're now going to hear from our current students, Kyla and Miles, about how their journey was from HSC to uni. I'll throw over to you guys to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about that story and the journey. Perhaps starting with you, Kyla.
Hi, so I am in my final year of a Bachelor of Commerce and Law, and I major in finance. From the moment that I started university, have always really enjoyed being able to come on campus, and I started off attending 5 days a week, which I know was a lot, but I thought it'd be a good idea to make friends. Eventually, after that, I continued to take up as many opportunities as I could to be a part of the community, and I've had a really amazing time at university, having travelled and represented our university, and every other experience here I'd love to talk about throughout the rest of our session today.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you, Kyla. And over to you, Miles.
Thanks, Jess. Hi everyone. I'm Miles. I'm currently in the final year of my Bachelor of Mechatronic Engineering degree. Towards the end of high school, I was really sure that I wanted to do engineering, but I wasn't sure what specialisation I wanted to do and what uni to go to. So I attended lots of open days, did lots of online research, and I really found that the UNSW Mechatronic Engineering degree was the one that I wanted to do. It ticked all my boxes. And so I'm here today to help with subject selection, give all the information you need.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your experiences. Before we get into your HSC and the subjects you took, let's take it back to what you wanted to be when you grew up. So tell me, maybe starting with you, Miles, what did your 15-year-old self want to do?
15-year-old me was really focused on music. I spent most of my time playing musical instruments, learning a lot. I was in all 4 bands at my high school. I was in the wind and jazz orchestras and the string and a cappella groups. So I was spending a lot of time on music and lots of my free time learning and trying new things with music. But when I wasn't practicing or studying, I was on my computer, so I still had lots of drive to learn about computer technical stuff, like hardware, and I really wanted to learn my own softwares. But really the overall dream of 15-year-old me was to write and perform music.
Amazing. And what a diverse range of passions and skills at such a young age. So now turning over to you, Kyla, tell me, what were the ambitions of your 15-year-old self?
When I was 15, similarly, I was heavily involved in our music, but in high school, but I also really enjoyed drama and debating. And these 2 co-curricular activities helped me realise that I had a passion for being able to communicate and build connections with others. And from then on, I realised potentially law might be a way in which I could build on my interpersonal and communicational skills. And then eventually commerce was something that I realised I enjoyed through the elective and learning about it in school, and eventually I thought maybe I could combine the 2 and make the best of the Bachelor of Commerce and Law at university.
Amazing. Thank you so much for those insights. Now let's take it to year 10 and trying to make that dream come true. Could you let us know what subjects you chose for year 11 and 12? Maybe with you first.
So for year 11 and 12, I did legal studies, economics, 3 units of maths and 4 units of English.
Fantastic. And what about you, Miles?
I did 2 units of English, 3 units of maths, software design and development, physics, and 3-unit music, where I majored in composition.
Yeah, fantastic. And Miles, can you talk me through your decision-making process as to why you chose those subjects?
Yeah, of course. I chose 3-unit music because that was what my passion was at the time. I really wanted to continue my passion with music, and I wanted to continue that to possibly achieve my dream. But I also chose 3-unit maths, software design and development, and physics to really learn about the technical and theoretical things to do with technology, because I thought that could also be something that I wanted to do in the future.
Amazing. And what about you, Kyla? What inspired your subject selection? for those final years?
For me, I think I spoke a lot to the older students to get a sense of what their personal experiences were like in these subjects. But I was really drawn to legal studies and economics because I had had exposure to debating and mock trial and studying commerce in my younger years. So I knew that these would be subjects that I'd be interested in.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you both had a really interesting range of subjects for your final years. I wonder if you could just tell me what your favourite one was and why.
So my favourite subject was probably economics because I could see how it could really impact the world, and I felt like what I was studying was really relevant and tangible. I've always been someone who enjoys being able to apply what I learn outside of the classroom, and it was very easy to look at the news and see how what I was studying was impacting people and the money that we were exchanging and dealing with every day.
Amazing. And what about you, Miles?
Yeah. Oh no, I forgot what the question was.
Sorry, it was what was your favourite subject and why?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks, Jess. I'd say my favourite subject was definitely 3-unit music. Yeah, it gave me a lot of freedom to learn things in my own time, and because I chose composition, it was a project over the whole year. And so that was a really good look into what I'm now doing. I didn't realise it at the time, but it really helped with developing my own time management techniques and how I'd work on a project over a long period of time.
That is such a useful insight. Thank you so much. So Kyla, I know that you have already touched on how you spoke to people to help inform your decision-making process for those final year subjects. But Miles, I'm curious to know, did you seek advice from anyone, either peers, school support, things like that?
I didn't exactly go out of my way to find out too much about the subjects, but I did attend my high school subject selection night, where I talked to a lot of the teachers that were running the courses that I wanted to do, and they were really useful. I learnt a lot about it, and I definitely suggest going to that. But once I'd made up my mind on what subjects I wanted to do, I talked to my parents, asked what they wanted to see from it, what they thought of it, and in the end I ended up sticking to what I wanted to do.
Amazing. And Kyla, I guess building on the conversations with your peers, did you have any further conversations as part of your selection process, or what did that look like for you?
I think for me, I was also, beyond the peers that I was talking to, interested in hearing about what students at university had actually done. So I had been going to open days for a while in high school, and so I regularly just attended one of the open days and spoke to students there who were studying commerce and law to get a sense of what they did in high school. And although a lot of them said that they didn't study legal studies, they said that perhaps maybe it would have given them a little bit more insight. So I decided to have that foundation going into year 11 and 12.
Amazing. Do you have any advice on what not to do when selecting subjects for your final years?
So I guess for me, I always knew I wouldn't be able to study a subject that I had no interest in or that I thought wouldn't let me, I guess, really enjoy being in high school for the last 2 years. So my advice would be to choose subjects based on your ability to study them and enjoy being in the classroom for, because these final years of high school should really be cherished and taken the opportunity of studying subjects that you might not be able to going forward and enjoying them.
Thank you so much. And Miles, what about you? What would you tell your former self around what not to do when selecting your subjects?
Well, I'd definitely emphasise looking at subjects that you think you won't procrastinate doing the work for, because that was a big thing that I was looking at avoiding for year 11 and 12, and I think I did it quite well. But you also have to look at what you're doing outside of school and how you're going to manage your school life balance. So really assess how much time you'll have for extracurricular activities and other things like that. Yeah.
That's actually a fantastic segue to my next question. So I might stick with you, Miles. What about those extracurricular activities that you were doing through school? What kind of things were you involved in? I assume it was probably a lot of music. But did those have to stop for the HSC? How did you get that balance?
I was doing a lot of music with my school and outside of my school. So I was in state orchestras as well. But apart from music, I was also part of Venturers, so the scouting movement, and I did Duke of Ed through school as well. But overall, I didn't have to stop any of them. I did. I just pulled back a bit. I didn't keep going as much as I was committed to before year 11 and 12. So yeah, I did pull back. But otherwise, I did still put more effort into one of them. So that was Venturers, because I wanted to complete my Queen Scout Award.
Nice.
And so that helped me get into UNSW.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how about you, Kyla? How did you juggle extracurricular and, I guess, study social life?
It was hard. I think it's definitely an adjustment going especially into year 11 and knowing that the HSC is right around the corner. But I did keep up with debating, similarly narrowing down the extracurriculars to the ones that I thought were going to be the most valuable in terms of being able to have an opportunity to build on skills I could bring into university and the workforce, but also ones that I could genuinely see myself dedicating my time and enjoying it. So not ones that I felt as though I were just doing it for the sake of it. It really helped with my mental health throughout the rest of the high school, and also being able to stay in touch with my close friends through doing something we all loved.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love the thought of being quite pointed around what you do take on and cutting out maybe the fillers.
Yes.
So you're still able to fill your cup, as we may say, with what energizes you and keeps you feeling, sane and happy going through those study periods, but also allows you to focus on the HSC, which lies ahead. Before we finish up, I was just wondering if both of you could share what your one piece of advice would be to your Year 10 self.
My advice would be to really take the time to enjoy the last few years of high school. I know that it can all come as a rush going into year 11 and 12, but in year 10, it's a really valuable opportunity for you to continue to build on your friendships and try the new extracurriculars that you hadn't yet before you go into year 11 and 12 and narrow down on which ones you want to continue with. So the main piece of advice is just to take your time in making those big decisions and enjoy the time that you have left of high school.
Thank you so much. Miles, what about you? What's your one piece of advice to your Year 10 self?
I'd tell myself to keep challenging myself, keep pushing myself through my extracurriculars, through my subjects, and try my best not to pull back on anything. Because I really felt that I could have pushed myself that little bit more through year 11 and 12, and I could have got a little bit more out of myself. But also, don't take away from all the experiences that you can have. Do take time off. Do enjoy the time that you have in year 11 and 12, and make really lasting memories.
Amazing. That's such great advice. I think what I'm hearing is it's all really around balance and making sure that while you're focusing on the HSC and working towards your uni and career ambitions, that you're taking time along the way to enjoy the moment and also, pursuing your passions. Thank you so much, Kyla and Miles, for your time this evening. It's been great getting your insights, and thank you for sharing your experiences on how your journey was from Year 10 through to your time at UNSW. We're now going to be joined by Trudy Noller from the University Admissions Centre for our Q&A panel. So we're excited to see your questions. If you haven't already, make sure you pop them into the chat. So I might direct the first one to you, Kyla. It says, I want to study commerce at university. What are some of the things I could do in year 11 and 12 to set myself up for this path?
Sure. So when I was in year 11 and 12, I was taking economics and advanced maths, but at that point I knew that there was no prerequisite for commerce, so I was just doing those subjects because I was purely interested and enjoyed doing them. So my advice here would be to ensure that the subjects that you've chosen are ones that you will really enjoy and be able to study many hours for.
Amazing. And I might actually stick with you because I can see the next one's all around the UNSW Bachelor of Laws. So what subject should I take in year 11 and 12 if I want to get into the UNSW Bachelor of Laws?
So the subjects here as well I took were legal studies and economics, which helped me get an understanding of commercial law, seeing as though there sometimes were an intersection between the two. What's more important, as I said before, was that both of these courses don't have any prerequisites, so it's really important to be able to just choose subjects that you know that you can push through in those last 2 years of high school.
Thank you so much. Miles, I might direct this one to you. I know degrees like engineering are maths heavy. Do I have to study extension maths if I want to get in to UNSW engineering?
Yeah, okay. That's a great question. Well, as Kyla said, UNSW doesn't have prerequisites for our courses. So, like extension maths is just assumed knowledge. But speaking from experience, I have lots of friends that didn't do extension maths and are at UNSW doing engineering, and they actually found the transition quite easy, going from even advanced maths or standard maths to the extension level. UNSW does also offer bridging courses that can help get you up to speed, but honestly, the first year subjects really help you, get up to the right amount of knowledge.
Thank you. I'm sure that's very reassuring for many of our audience here tonight. Trudy, I'm sure this is actually a question you would get asked a lot at expos and out on the road. Is it true that your marks can get scaled down depending on what school you go to?
That is certainly a question I get asked all the time. We always get asked whether the courses that they complete or the school they are attending are scaling them down. Absolutely not. We don't scale anybody down. When we do the calculation, we don't actually put the school that you attend into that calculation. You can achieve a high ATAR no matter what school you attend. But when we do the calculation, as I said, we're only using marks, and the only person that can really scale you down is yourself. If you're not putting in the effort to your studies and putting in a good performance, you're going to be, of course, putting yourself at risk of getting a lower ATAR. So,
thank you. Miles, this one I might ask you to answer. It's all around early entry. So what does UNSW have on offer, if anything?
Yeah, so in short, UNSW doesn't offer any early entry schemes, but we do have something called an early conditional offer. They range from either through our gateway programs or through portfolio entries. So they're like a little short submission of what you've done or what you're interested in, and it's through UNSW's portals, and you can submit it to them. They're specifically for engineering and ADA faculties.
And for those who don't know what the ADA acronym stands for, that's Arts, Design and Architecture. So one of our biggest faculties alongside UNSW Engineering. Thank you so much, Miles. Kyla, I might direct this one to you. So this person has written, they're very interested in international experiences. Does UNSW have any exchange opportunities? And if so, do you know if there are any restrictions on the courses and years you can take an exchange on?
So UNSW has 300 exchange partners in 35 countries. So there are boundless exchange international opportunities. There is a minimum grade requirement to be able to attend exchange, but it is achievable, and it's really up to you when eventually after first year you would like to go, because it takes about a year in advance to complete the application for exchange.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you don't necessarily need to be in a second year or later year of study, but you need to have a year in advance to do all the paperwork. So start planning that experience early. Amazing. Okay, so actually, I think this is one that both Kyla and Miles, I'll get you both to weigh in on. This person has written, I love sport and do a lot outside school. I don't want to give these up. So what do you recommend to balance my studies and my extracurriculars while going through 11 and 12?
Miles, would you like to start?
Yeah. Okay. I'd say really look at how much time you have. So when I was going into year 11 and 12, I had a lot of extracurricular things going on, and I was picking up more subjects, of course, and I was really new to all of them. So I started personally using a calendar a lot. That's when I first started trying to organize my time. It was really helpful to know when I had gaps, when I could put in study, when I had to go to training, when I had to play games. Just organizing your time and knowing how much time you have to complete things is really, really important.
I love the concept of time blocking in calendars. It's something I still do today in my professional life. How about you, Kyla? Do you have any additional advice?
I think for me, when I was in year 11, 12, I narrowed down the extracurriculars I wanted to do, because I realized that a lot of the other activities I was doing didn't actually fill me with any joy, or it just felt like I was doing it for the sake of it, or I'd gotten burnt out of them. So I decided to make the choice between these extracurriculars, which of the ones would actually help me have time away from my studies to de-stress and make time to see friends and enjoy what we love doing together. So I really took a executive approach to make sure that I was only signing up to things that I knew would be beneficial for my mental health in year 11 and 12.
Such great advice around prioritising, not just for your workload and balance, but also for, your mental health as well. Trudy, I might give this one to you because it's all about UAC and course preferences. So this student has written in, when do I submit my UAC course preferences before receiving my ATAR?
Okay, so when, of course, a student gets into year 12, applications will always open in around about April of that year 12 year. So students can start lodging an application with their course preferences at that time. We at UAC will contact year 12 students every year via their email they have listed with NESA. So make sure when you get your students' online profile up to date, put your personal email there, because we'll contact you through that email. And then you can start lodging that application from that time, and you can keep changing those preferences throughout the admissions cycle. Now, we do have what we call close of preference dates, and students should keep in mind those dates, because you have to have your course preferences in order by that time to be considered in the next offer round. Now, the ATAR-based offer rounds start in late December. So usually you get your ATAR, you'll have maybe 24 hours to change your course preferences, have them in order to be considered in that first ATAR-based offer round.
Thank you. What I'm hearing a lot around is the importance of having a calendar and being across due dates and deadlines in these final 2 years. This is probably our final question given the time, but I might leave it open to the floor. So other than career options and opportunities, what are the values of going to university?
I think I've most enjoyed at university the friendships that I've been able to create through taking up a lot of the opportunities to join societies and clubs and sports, where you are able to meet a lot of people that outside of your degree. And so in that way, you are able to build so many more friendships than you could have imagined in high school. And so that's been my favourite part of university. But Miles, how about you?
Yeah, well, I'd really like to reiterate that joining clubs is a really great way to get to know more people, build some really great friendships. But I'd also like to emphasize that through unis, you do get that exchange opportunity. And at UNSW, we do have exchange scholarships. So, yeah, you can get paid to travel the world. And personally, I think that's pretty amazing.
Thank you everyone for submitting your questions. That's all we have time for this evening, and I hope that you've enjoyed this Year 10 information session on subject selection. Have a great night, and I hope to see you at a UNSW event sometime soon.